At Humoriso, we're not just another HR consultancy. We're a team of dedicated experts wanting to bring your business forward. Our Humoriso Technology Solutions, HTS, are a different kind of HR tech. Give real-time insights without overwhelming managers with too much data. So whether you're a growing startup, an established company, our human resources outsource support, payroll management are all there to help drive your business forward. So check us out and see what Humoriso could do for you today.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday in the flesh. Pause is back. I'm with my man, Serge. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are heading into Thanksgiving holiday weekend here in the States, but Serge, it's just another week for you up north in Canada.
It is. So what's your plans for Thanksgiving? What happens at the Foster household?
So it's interesting. It's interesting. So we head over to my mother-in-law's, which is convenient. It's about 15 minutes away. My wife and I do a coin toss every year of who's going to be driving home, which is great, but I'm right. But it's her house, family. Usually, I let her. She could have a few extra drinks. I'll start early. Maybe I'll have a couple beers watching football. I love it, and then it gets rowdy, and then all the kids come over, and there's a lot of them, and it's just straight ruckus. But you know what? It's not my house. I don't have to clean it up.
Yeah. That's actually the best thing about it, right?
I'm like, I'm out. I'm leaving.
How many kids are there going to be?
2, 4, 6-ish.
6. Okay. So they're all around the same age?
They're all ranging from 4 to 14.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 to 14. It's a good one though. But I listen, I think that one of the reasons I married my wife is because I eat well. The family eats well. So we have our traditional turkey, we have some traditional sides, but because of the Russian influence, we have a couple of these side dishes, a lot of these mayonnaise-based salads, and they're really good. They're really good. I'm telling you, they're great. And we feast. I usually do a double eating. I'll start with one plate, eat, take a break, come back a little bit later because we eat at 3. And then I want to eat a little bit later. So what about Canadian Thanksgiving? That was last week, right?
It was around a month ago.
Oh.
Canadian Thanksgiving is basically exactly the same as American Thanksgiving as far as the traditions, like turkey, ham, whatever the deal is. It's just a little bit earlier. And to think about it, actually, isn't it better to be earlier? Just because now, so you've got like a month. You've got a month between Christmas. So Thanksgiving and Christmas a month. We've got around 2 months. So it kind of like spreads out the holidays a little bit more, is my theory. I think the Canadian is, I don't know. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, the American might be a better idea, right?
Yeah, but what I really love about it is the football on the Thursday, the three games, right? It's well done. You sit on the couch. You really don't have to move. It's a nice holiday, and I like having the Friday off. The next, it makes for a nice 4-day weekend. So Thanksgiving is great. We're excited for it here. And what else is going on in your world? We were just talking before. Listen, guys, 2026 is around the corner. We have some fun events coming up. We have the big boys. We have the Unleashes. We have the Transforms. We have TA Week. We're going to be out on the road doing Purple Acorn stuff. I'm going to be doing some pause stuff. We're going to be all over the place. What's on your dance card, Sergio?
You know what? I haven't figured out 2026 yet. Now that you're saying it, though, it's coming up really quickly. Definitely going to hit the Unleash of the World, the HR Tech, the Rec Fest. TA Week, I'm still on the fence, but you're going to be there, so I might change my mind and actually go because it was actually one of the funnest events I did last year.
We had a good time.
They do a really good job at it.
What I really love about that one, it's one of the better, smaller, more intimate events, and you actually get to spend time with a lot of really good people instead of the bigger events where you see someone here, you see someone there. You're spending quality time, and I built so many great relationships. You introduced me to some incredible folks, Natasha over there, like some Natasha Cuomo, some really good people over there that I've built relationships with, and that's really what it's all about. So mix it up, folks. Get yourself out there on the scene, and everyone out there. It's Tuesday. Welcome to the HR Morning Show. We have a mix-up cast today. Serge and I will be running the controls over here. We are the #1 spot for all things HR all morning long. Don't forget, we're part of the Purple Acorn Network. We got a ton of amazing podcasts underneath us. Check us out over at purpleacornnetwork.com. We're on LinkedIn, YouTube. We're a podcast every Tuesday. Oh, finally, we did it. We hit 2,000 followers. Now let's get up to 5,000. Let's do it. We have so much more to go. We have a great show for you guys today. So let's get to it.
But Adam, this show is brought to you by Kika. So the HR Morning Show, it wouldn't happen if we didn't have fantastic sponsors, Kika being the latest one. Kika is the all-in-one HR and payroll platform. Kika is a unified HR, payroll, and performance management platform built to simplify work for modern organizations. I was founded with the belief that employee experience is at the heart of the business. So Kika helps companies move away from all those fragmented tools and manual processes. We've all been in HR. We know what it is to deal with really crappy systems. If you're in the market for an HRIS, you definitely got to check out Kika.
It's headlines. This is an interesting one, right? We're still talking AI slop here. AI slop has now made its way over to video games, which it's interesting too, because if you think about just the general world of video games, and I'm not a gamer too, but you're using tools within these games to create characters. But now the characters in these games, for example, Call of Duty Black Ops, the game itself is generating characters, and there's this fear that those characters are going to take away from the developers that are supposed to be creating these jobs. What is going on here? Is AI just dominating all of these jobs? What's the situation here? Now the government's getting involved.
I'm not a gamer, but looking at the game, I was researching a little bit before. It does look a little bit like AI slop. And you think about the video game industry is massive. It's huge,
Huge.
but there's also a lot of costs
Mhm.
to doing a game, right? And it takes a really long time. So I think like every other business out there, they're looking at ways for AI to help and potentially start replacing some of these artists. So I'm hoping that's not the case, but you never know. If it does
Yeah.
as good a job as a person,
So
I definitely see this as the future.
yeah, so let's unpack this one a little bit too. So the franchise has come under
Yeah.
scrutiny, right? The extensive use of generative AI, notably calling card art in the game, which is resembling distinct style. But now the government is involved. This guy, this
Mm.
Democrat from California, Rokahana, right? He weighed in publicly. He's warning about the broader implications of what happens if companies using AI to cut jobs, reduce human creative input. We know this for higher profits, right? But he's specifically calling out Call of Duty as the problem. And then Activision, which is the publisher, they acknowledge that they're using the AI tools to build these assets, but they're insisting, Serge, that human creatives are behind and in the driver's seat. Seems a little fuzzy to me.
Yeah. Do they need to be? Why are they saying that? Is it that just what they're saying right now before humans are not behind it? Like, I think we can both agree that this is where it's going. I think a lot of these characters moving forward will be AI created. I don't know what the impact of the human artists, but I'm not surprised to see this.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and I would think video games would be the first frontier of this, just by nature
Yeah.
of the product itself. I mean, it is a digital game. I do I see it as a big deal? I obviously I see it as a big deal as far as because I don't want to see anybody losing their jobs. But in the same
Same.
breath, this is technology and the evolution moving forward. So if you're working there, upskill yourself to be the one controlling the AI inputs of the games, right? Like, how do you make yourself? This goes back to a much higher level conversation of all employees out there. How do you continue to
Yeah.
make yourself invaluable within an organization? I've been having a lot of conversations too with HR and T practitioners, to get it back to the root of the show here of how to stay relevant in this world. And it is to embrace AI, be a student of AI, come to your company with ideas, new products that are out there, show and tell, make yourself the point person for AI tech within your company. And that's really what's going to keep you hopefully there. Or they may be like, hey, Serge, thanks for sharing those ideas. We're all set here. You could go. But no, but I
I
at a high
there's
level, if you become
one.
invaluable, you're gonna keep a job or have a better chance.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely with that. I'm interested to see your viewpoint on this because lawmakers have already introduced bills requiring companies to report AI related job losses to the US government, which
Hmm.
is what they're asking here. So, any artist replaced, they should be reporting to the government. But as a whole, do you think industry should do that? Like, do you think this
Oh,
should be
this is a tough
public
one.
data of?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because there's a balance of government oversight and government reporting, right? Like how much, big government, small government, how much you want your government involved in it too. I
Yeah.
think it is important data, public data to share overall because it is going to obviously affect the job market and it'll give job seekers, I don't want to use the word peace of mind because it's actually the opposite of that, but having the data there will be able to point you in the right direction. Hey, am I losing my job because of AI, or is there other reasons affecting why I'm losing my job, or certain jobs that used to be available are not? Right. I think it's a double-edged sword. I mean, government oversight, government control. I'm not really for big government.
Yeah, I think we have to be very careful because the minute that we start looking at regulating this, it could kill innovation. And obviously, you want to protect the people. I think there's a fine balance here, but the minute the government gets involved too heavily, and definitely innovation slows down. Which is, well, and we might argue that it should slow down, but generally, as a whole, we should move forward as quickly as possible.
We have an interesting point coming from the production truck, our man Alan in there, and he's saying a good point here. AI should be used to make NPCs, which are what does it mean, non-player characters. What does that mean?
Yeah,
It's also
that's what I mean.
when we call someone an NPC, according to my kid, to
Yeah,
make it more lifelike, right? Like AI should be using that, right? Because it's generative. They're in the background there, and but for graphic generation, isn't that a human thing? They want to part more of the story there. I don't know. The gaming industry feels so primed for AI. Why are they honing in
it
on
does.
gaming? Like, why are they going here? Like, I feel this one should be fine, fair game. Like, it's a digital platform that's generated based on the content happening and the storylines. Like, it seems logical that this would feed into an AI algorithm for content creation. I understand the job.
Yeah.
I think they're picking a fight with the wrong target here. I think they're a little off on the targeting.
I completely agree. I think the targeting is completely wrong. You are right. This seems like ripe for this type of innovation. Like AI seems to be perfectly fit for gaming. But what do I know? I'm not a gamer. I'd be very curious if there's any gamers
Anyone in the comments
listening,
here?
watching this. Like, please go in the comments. I'd love to get your
Well,
inputs
I
here.
see I see Joel in the comments here. So Joel could comment, but he can't show up for today's show. What's up with that, Joel?
What
You
is up?
No, I'm kidding with Joel. We all have things going on and we miss him. And we also love to switch it up here with the host on the HR Morning Show. We're always keeping it fresh, different dynamics. I love chopping it up with Serge here. Any comments here on gaming? We'd love for you guys to chime in. Jump into the comments. Follow along your thoughts on AI in the gaming world. It is not my area of expertise, but generally speaking, at a high level here, I think they got bigger fish to fry than the gaming industry.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, interesting too. So let's keep this one. Let's keep this one moving over here. Alin Bailey. I am back with my friend Alin. What's happening? Oh, you need your glasses to talk to me, don't you?
I need my glasses on, and I had to figure out how to take myself off mute. I was like, wait. I was multitasking.
What is happening? You're getting ready for the hot. Well, first of all, happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank
Happy
you.
18.
18 as of yesterday. Lord help me.
Great. Lord help me. Now she officially does not have to listen to you. Now
Yeah, and you
officially.
know what? She literally said that.
Oh, of course they did.
Of course, right?
Mm.
Right? Straight out of the mouth, like, you know what? I
Mm.
don't have to go on vacation for Christmas because I'm 18. I'm like, you know,
Great. You're
you
gonna
don't.
and you're gonna save me some money. Great. Fine. You don't have to
That's
go.
right.
You could stay.
That's right.
If you don't want to
Ex-
go,
exactly. Go.
it's fine.
Whatever.
Do you have any
Whatever.
do you have any thoughts on AI and gaming here? I know you're listening in over there. Like this isn't my world gaming. I don't know
Me neither.
but like are they picking on the wrong? Is this a wrong place to target for lawmakers? Like seems like
Yeah,
there's bigger fish to
my
fry.
gut is now again, not my industry. I don't know. Maybe there's some hidden nuance here I'm not understanding. So if there is, throw it in there,
Mhm.
guys. But I actually think this is a industry that's got to be ripe for the introduction of AI. I mean,
Right?
and I've got to. I mean, much like by the way, what we're seeing across the board, anything that's a heavy coding based skill set, right? Although I think one of the things that is interesting is, how well is AI actually coding? What are the challenges there, et cetera? I'm sure that people have lots of points of view on that. But at the end of the day, this is a space that, it is a somewhat repeatable task, right? I mean,
Right.
humans maybe with good design and prompting in this space should be able to leverage AI to execute it.
Absolutely. So, Alen, what are we chatting about today? What are you thankful for?
What am I thankful for? Um, Gosh, that's such a great question. Right now, not I. What am I thankful for? You know what I'm thankful for? I am thankful for the fact that I think we are finally starting to elevate to the next level of conversation, and really start to go deeper into the next evolution of work. I think that we've all started to get an understanding that AI is here. It's not going away. We've had the back and forth dialogue about whether it's good, bad. We just had that conversation related to gamers. But I think that at this point we're realizing it's here. Now we're having that next level of conversation, which is, well, what the heck? Is that actually going to mean for what this experience of work is like for us? So I'm thankful that conversation is opening up. I'm thankful for the people who've been starting to ping me and start having that dialogue. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I'm also, I hate to be a cynic here too, but I do think that we need to hit rock bottom first so we could work our way back up. I think there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of miscommunication going on. There's, on the candidate side, so many frustrated candidates that are out of work that are using every tool out there to try to get some kind of competitive advantage. And the biggest concern that I'm seeing out there is fraud. And fraud comes at many different levels in the use of AI, right? I think there's fraud, which is not malicious, where candidates are saying, hey, listen, I need to get in front of these companies. So if I need to take a job description, and listen, embellishing on job descriptions has been happening since the caveman. Right? I'm sure there was a caveman that said, I'm an expert at carving stone into a wheel, and they couldn't carve shit. Sorry, pardon my French there.
Right. That's the whole
Versus-
reason that we have interviewing and assessment to begin with.
Right. But then
Right.
how are AI and assessment AI tools, if they're basing it off a resume, like where's the human filter? We always need to have that human filter, that BS filter in there for the recruiter and the hiring manager, who are the experts, who could ask the right questions to suss out true expertise. So I think that we're hopefully going to hit rock bottom on AI stuff and work back up to have more human time. But at the end of the day, candidates are still frustrated. They're going to be using everything in their power.
As they should.
As companies are using everything in their power to skill rank, to source and sift through resumes, because honestly, the pipeline are massive.
100%. So it's going to happen on both sides. We need to just be aware of that. I actually think what we're seeing is a bigger coming to the mountaintop sort of moment that's getting ready to happen. I think what we're starting to realize is, one, you're not, no matter how irritated we can all get and like throw our hands up and say, it's not fair, they're defrauding the system, they're using all these tools, da, 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 making it harder for me, more people are coming into my pipeline, etc. I think all this is doing is exposing the fact that we've got a back ass system and process in place in the first place.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way in which we have been connecting people to work is imploding on itself. I don't know what the answer is going to be and what the next piece is going to be, but I can say very firmly, I feel very confident that in the next 5 years, for sure, we are going to have a conversation that looks very, very different. And it's going to be one where we're finally dipping into the idea that perhaps this whole methodology that we use around, I'm going to post a job, and then you're going to go and try and figure out what the heck that job means in the first place, and then try and anticipate what you might want to say to make me more interested in you, and then get in front of me, and then I'm going to interview you, and then I'm going to connect you to a hiring manager, and they're not going to really understand what they're looking at, and then they're going to select somebody, and then we're going to, right? The whole thing, if you really think about it, is probably not the most practical way to connect people to work. It's just the way we've always done it. We just made it faster. We automated it. We put a whole bunch of fancy words around it, whatever. Right?
All right. So let's just go completely out of the box here. Like,
Okay.
if we're spitballing here,
Let's spitball. Let's go.
And we're going to completely reinvent the
Mhm.
courting process. And I think that's another way to kind of look at it too. And people have
Mhm.
tried that before. They've tried the dating approach. They've tried like the Tinder swipe method on candidates and everything
Sure.
there, thinking that would work. And that is inherently biased to begin with, right? Because then you're just looking, I don't even know. But like what would it be? Like how would that even how do we reimagine the process? Like where do we even start? Like where's the first point of that should be broken down and
We
rebuilt?
have to start at the biggest problem that we have never fixed, which is workforce planning.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, if this is about courting and connecting people to the right opportunities, allowing companies to be able to exceed and excel at what they're trying to do, once we get past very transactional jobs, the idea of being able to understand who you need for a role, what they actually need to be able to do, and what they're going to need to be able to do in the future, and whether or not you need somebody full time, part time, temporary. Maybe you need an AI to do it. So these are questions in the workforce planning space that we now, I think, are starting to have the ability to address. But until we solve that, which then allows us to actually go out and say, this is actually what I'm looking for, the type of and again, person, tool, individual to be able to execute this task for or to do this work for a company. This is what I'm really looking for. Until that gets fixed, everything else is a shell game.
I don't know. I've even had crazy ideas too. Like, what if the entire workforce was fractional, right? What if people were
Absolutely.
like, what if the entire workforce? Well, not the entire workforce, right? Because some people have to actually run and own companies
Sure.
and build it too. But what if we got much more? And I see we're leading in this direction too. But where companies were embracing more of a fractional workforce, thinking about it a little bit differently to be more efficient with productivity. Going back to workforce planning, be like, all right, we need a UX designer, but we only really need this UX designer 20-30% of the time, maybe 50% of the
hmm
time too, right?
hmm
Like I'm not talking just freelancers, but thinking about like a full-time fractional kind of mindset here. Like could that be part of the future too, where
I think it absolutely
maybe
can
companies are
be.
co-sharing, like co-oping, like, all right, my company's going to partner with your company. We're going to split the cost. We're going to figure out the time. I mean, I'm just thinking completely out of the box here. Like where do we go with this?
100% we can go that direction. I think, listen, this isn't a hugely foreign concept, right? If you think about it, the idea of companies like Kelly Services and Manpower and
Hmm.
some of these original companies that, been around, I don't probably since the 60s. I don't know. They've
Yeah.
been around for a long time, right? But the whole concept there was I'm going to help connect you to temporary support to help you do something that you need to do in your life, right? And then I'm going to be able to manage this group of employees for you, and they'll be able to work in multiple places. So this isn't a foreign concept. We've done this. We just made it so linear, right?
Right.
So transactional. And we put all the power in the hands of the company, the business, that kind of arbitrary force, which was making the decision about where you were the right connector fit and et cetera.
And
I think what we're going to see is with the evolution of the ability to have better insight into what people actually can bring to the table, with people taking more control over where they want to work, how they want to work, and when they want to work, they'll start taking more control over that kind of fractional relationship. And we're seeing that, right? I mean, I have, so this is an interesting little piece I'll give you. So
okay.
over the last 3 days, literally three, maybe four, but it started around Friday. I wrote a piece on LinkedIn. Doesn't really matter what it was. What I can tell you is,
Hmm.
my inbox blew up. My
I
inbox
know the
blew
article.
up.
Yeah.
Right.
My comment alone got
It
like a
That's
thousand
right.
likes.
That's right. Okay. So I'm not joking when I say I have had thousands of people DM me. The number of people that are DMing, I would say 80% of them are what I would call mid-tier to high-tier professionals who are reflecting upon the fact that they are having trouble figuring out where they fit in the workplace today. This is a huge challenge, and I think the more people who are in that position, the more likelihood is that things will start to shift, because those are the people who will start figuring out new ways to address this, right?
Right. We also have to remove the stigma of quote unquote freelancing or fractional in the
Right.
hiring process. I mean, I can't even tell you how many hiring managers I've worked with in my decade of recruiting that look down upon hiring freelancers.
hmm Right. They're like, oh, they won't be committed, they won't be dedicated, they won't understand our company culture. They won't be able to
All right.
they won't give their heart and soul to me full time and create some sort of weird relationship, right? A very
Or
we're
the
moving past that.
or
But that's where that differentiation between who is in charge in this relationship. If people truly own their expertise and delivery of that at a fractional level, then they own who they work for, when they work for it, and what they choose to work on. That means companies start losing control over managing people's kind of larger impact, right?
yeah.
That scares the shit out of them.
It does. It does. And yeah, and how do we remove it goes back to removing the stigma that someone just because someone's freelancing, that means that they're not as good as someone who has a full-time tenured
Right.
background too. I disagree. I think that brings different levels of experience, diversity of mindset, diversity of experience. Right? Like I've
Well,
worked in multiple companies. I've seen different techniques, skills, and viewpoints that I could bring to your company because I've touched more companies. Now, albeit the caveat there has to be like they're good at what they do and that
sure.
they're not fractional because they suck at what they do and can't land a full-time job. That's the stigma that's leading to it. So how do you do the skill assessment, right? How do you use, this other thing that's coming out right now is KYE, like know your employee too, which is using verification to say how long somebody worked somewhere, that they're not working multiple jobs, right? Like, how do you like, hey, this is
I think all that stuff, again, and I don't have an answer for it, but I've got to tell you, it sits wrong with me. This idea that companies have any right to know transparently how many places I work and what I do outside of what I deliver to them, as long as I am not infringing or harming them in any way, as long
correct.
as I'm not like, taking my secrets I learned here and go doing it over at another place or etc. At the end of the day, individuals own their own choices and decisions. This is part of the reason we started to see the breakdown of this recently, as we started to see more and more states, for example, start to push back against NDA laws, right?
How,
Non-disclosure agreements.
how so?
Well, they started to come in and say, listen, these non-disclosure agreements are not legal, right? You can't
They're
have these.
too restrictive.
They're
They're
too
too restrictive.
restrictive.
Yeah.
You can't have these blanket agreements that say somebody, can't work inside an industry for years because they happen to work for you for 3 months, right? That is part of the breakdown of this narrative that we're starting to see.
It's fascinating there too, and from your side
Yeah.
on smart recruiters too. I assume that you have a bunch of studies going out too. What are some of these new questions that you're starting to work into studies to form these conclusions based on data points?
Yeah. We're doing a lot of looking at our own data set right now. And, obviously it's anonymized, et cetera, but we're trying to understand who companies are hiring for, how often they're hiring. And if we are starting to see some shifts in job title types, if we're starting to see what we're talking about here, shifts in permanent versus fractional versus contractual. We're doing a lot of work to try and understand, are we starting to see um, some new paradigms around where and how people work, this idea of work from anywhere and remote work. I know we've been talking about that forever, but there's a lot of the challenge here has been around the legalities of that, right? How do am I responsible for somebody if they choose to work,
From like a
in
tax implications
from a
and
tax implication, et
benefits.
cetera.
Yeah.
And more and more companies, I think, are starting to adjust and figure this piece out, and we're starting to see some shift in that place. So those are some of the questions that we're looking at. I think the fact that now we're sitting inside this larger ecosystem in the human capital management system around SAP, we're having access to a different understanding. They have a
Mm.
really great research team and organization that is looking at some of these more complex questions around the future of work. I put a huge shout out to that team, and I think part of what we're trying to look at there is what is a job? I think that's a big question.
Ooh,
What is the job in the
so
future? I don't know the answer. I'm just saying we're asking the question. I think we need to understand that better. Um,
I like that. I want to pause on that one for a second. So instead, let's take the whole. We've been talking about the future of work for the last couple of years. Now let's talk about the future of jobs. Like, let's bring it a little bit more granular into
yeah.
what does the future of my job look like. And I am all for. And this is part of my comment on your post I'm referring to
Mhm.
portfolio careers. People have portfolio experience. What does that look like? How are they changing roles, titles, working within organizations? And people are moving away from 20 years of doing the same job at the same company. So let's
Oh,
evolve that too.
yeah, 100%. So what does that, again, this is connected to that conversation we were just having about fractional and temporary and connected work. And as people start to own that, the job has a lot of challenges with it today, right? One, it's a container that is generated and created to be able to articulate to people what a company thinks it needs. Companies can't figure out what they need, so the container is fundamentally flawed and broken, which then means people are landing into or thinking they're trying to work in a particular job. That job is highly dynamic. I think we're seeing that more and more today. I for the life of me, I have very rarely met a professional who can raise their hand and say what they do today is what was on their job description.
So to that point, if we're going back to our original conversation, imagining what the future
Yeah.
of jobs look too, what if companies just tie you in general buckets, right? Like I work on the
Right.
creative team, I work on the development team, I work
Mhm.
on the finance team. What do you do there? I do a whole bunch of shit.
Right.
I,
Right.
I do.
Well,
Don't put me in a
so
bucket.
exact. Don't put it back. So, but I think what this starts to then ask the question of, well, my God, if you're not in a bucket, how do I assess whether you're good at it or not? How do I make
Yeah.
decisions about promotion? How do I make decisions about compensation, etc.? It's going to force us to ask bigger questions, which say, are the parameters by which we make decisions about somebody's worth and value. And now I get
Well,
really deep into the worth and value conversation, which is connected to
ooh,
jobs.
there we go.
How do I make that? How do I make those determinations? How do I determine you're a great employee versus you're not versus et cetera, et cetera? It's going to be a breakdown of this skills narrative. I think that's going to start to prove to be somewhat false. Anyway, it is going to. We are at the precipice. These questions are starting to get asked. That's what I'm thankful for, and I think we're
Love
going
it.
to have a really interesting next few years with a series of deeper conversations that people are going to start having and not even realizing that it's starting to shift the paradigm.
Well, I'm all here for it. Lynn, leave us with some final words. What are you thankful for in this talent industry ecosystem world, or
You know what?
who? Like,
I'll tell you what I am very thankful for people like yourself and others who have formed this really kind of uh, hobnob group of roaming gypsies
yes,
that are having great conversations. I am, especially coming back off the road now, very thankful and reflective of the fact that
you need
I've
some
landed in
downtime.
a space with this community of people who I think are just really fascinating, interesting, and amazing individuals. So
I
that's what
I,
I'm
lo-
thankful
I
for.
love that one
People.
too, and my wish out there too is for anyone out there who's watching along and they're seeing all of us the same similar faces out there. I think it's time to bring some new faces in there. I
Yep.
encourage everyone to speak up. There's so many incredibly intelligent, strongly opinionated, good opinionated folks out there who may be scared to come on screen, who may be scared to voice their opinion. Put it out there. Step out of your comfort zone. We want to hear more voices. People don't want to hear me anymore. They want to hear everyone else out there. Let's get some more
Exactly.
voices out there. Lynn, I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you. You have a wonderful Thanksgiving and
You
enjoy it
too.
out there. And we'll catch you next week. And thank you to
Awesome.
Smart
Talk
Recruiters
to you
for
next week.
all in on
Bye.
AI.
Toodles.
We have a caller, and the caller is the author of Paint Your Store and Hiring Humans, and overall a fantastic human being. Craig, welcome to the HR Morning Show.
Serge, thank you. Glad to be here.
It's always a pleasure seeing you. It's always a pleasure talking about talent acquisition and HR because you've literally written the book on it. So, Hiring Humans, definitely check it out. Paint Your Store, which I haven't read yet, but I've heard many good things. So, definitely check that one out first. Craig, what do you do for Thanksgiving? What's your plans for Thanksgiving?
Oh boy, Serge, we're going to have 20 people here at my house. So
Okay.
I am buckling in. I am preparing to watch a lot of football.
Okay, that's Posner's plan too, because there's 3 games. Is there any game in particular that you're more interested in?
Yeah, for sure. So Cowboys Chiefs.
Yeah.
My wife is a Chiefs convert because she's a Swiftie. So
Okay.
we
Okay.
literally just got back from Kansas City to see a Chiefs game. Good win, by the way.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys had a good win. So this should be a fun matchup coming up on Thursday.
Yeah, it should be a really good matchup. And honestly, all I really care about is my fantasy football team. So as long as the players in it do well, I'll be happy. But
Same.
I'll be
Yes.
watching as well. That's the thing about being a Canadian. I'm still working, but most of my clients and people I deal with are in America. So I can watch the football game and get some work done. So I'm excited by that. But
Absolutely.
obviously, a lot of people know who you are, Craig Fisher. But for those in the audience that don't, like, give us a brief intro of who you are.
Yeah. So I'm a former pharmaceutical rep turned physician recruiter, and then a
Okay.
tech recruiter. And I've done every job in the space, if you can think about it like that. I've been a full desk guy. I've been a full commission big biller. I've been a staffing firm leader and owner. I've been an internal talent acquisition leader at a Fortune 500 company. And I've also been the CMO of one of the largest staffing organizations in the world, Allegis Global Solutions. And now when I'm not doing sort of full-time work, I'm a consultant to Fortune 50 employers and an advisor to a whole bunch of HR tech companies.
Yeah, definitely the depth and the breadth of your knowledge is out there. It's very evident in the books you've written. I'd love to get your insight on what's happening with recruiters right now. A lot of recruiters that I'm talking are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, feeling a little bit that they're drowning in the noise. Want to get your thoughts of, like, in this current landscape where candidates, in some cases, some job recs are getting 1,000 candidates, not a lot are qualified. How do recruiters kind of just simplify and go back to what they do really well?
Right. So, Serge, if you think about when we were just doing recruiting with email and job
Yeah.
boards, right? Um, Emails would stack up with candidate resumes, and we would just search our inbox, right, to find the keywords that stacked up the highest, basically.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed, right? Applicant tracking systems and talent matching algorithms don't do much things that are different than what I just described, right? And so look for candidates who are telling stories versus
Okay.
just trying to match your job description. If you can find some context where they're talking about their passion or their teams, those are candidates that really have a love for what they do. So I also advise on the flip side, right, for candidates to put context and stories into their resumes because that's what AI actually is looking for. It's looking for keywords
Mm.
in context.
Talk a little bit more about what that could look like for a job seeker, because, like, adding context, like, we're so used to just, like, we've been using the same resume template for decades. How should a job seeker approach this? How can they tell that story? What does it look like?
Yeah. So instead of saying, managed a team of 6 to do XYZ, say, uh, my team of 6 is passionate about XYZ for these reasons, and we achieved this by doing that. I
Yeah.
mean, so that's sort of resume 101, but also it puts just the slightest bit of storytelling and context around it. And literally, that's what modern algorithms are looking for.
Well, and putting that on the other side to recruiters that are going through resumes, and obviously you talked about matching tools and all of those, but I think in most cases we read all the resumes that come in, or it might not be a long time, but we do go through them. Like, what should recruiters look like in those resumes and context? Exactly those stories. Is there any specific advice for those people?
Yeah, look for active words and passion words. And this might sound counterintuitive, but literally the word passion or enjoy or happy, right? Things like that, that intone feeling. I think that, you can find some gems that way. You're obviously going to have to do your keyword searches and use your matching technology.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you still have to filter through quite a bit yourself. And so that's one of the ways that I like to find people who I think are going to be really excited about what they do.
Mm. I talk to recruiters. One of the things that they're telling me, yes, they're getting a ton of resumes, they're going through the pipeline of candidates, but they're also seeing a lot of candidates ghost them. And what I mean by is they just disappear from the
Right.
process in itself. Sometimes they find another job or whatever the case is. And I think this is my personal opinion. I think sometimes automation has made it easier for candidates to bail because they don't feel like they're dealing with an actual human. Are you seeing that? Is there something that recruiters can do to make sure that they're actually improving the conversion on the candidates that they're talking to, especially those top level candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. So this goes back to sort of white glove recruiting, right? A thing that we said was going to be bespoke and executive level and really high touch. And that's where we as recruiters are most important right now because
Yeah.
AI is good at bits and pieces, scheduling and things like that, maybe even screening, but not really good at building relationships yet, anyway. And so that's what we should be doing. I apply to jobs for a living. I poke holes and leak test systems for employers, and very often, where candidates drop out is when they feel like they're not getting any touch from a person, and so that's what we need.
Yeah, very good advice. Interesting that a big part of your role in what you do is going through applying for the jobs of the companies you're working with. And I've often told CEOs, like every CEO should do this for their own jobs.
Oh yeah.
But what are you seeing right now? Like, what are the trends that you're seeing as you're applying for a lot of jobs? Is there anything really standing out, being like, we need to fix this? This is not working.
Yeah, I mean, so still, and it's impossible to imagine this far into our HR technology and AI and automation discussions. Right, I've been talking about this stuff since 2017, and employers are still letting the basic generic auto reply go out to candidates that is just so mundane and
Yeah.
really shows that you don't care as an employer. The other thing is a lot of jobs are not ranking highly in job boards and in Google searches, and they're not set up well for it, right? So in your career site and in the way that you import the API from an ATS into that career site, you have to build some metadata and schema that actually structures your jobs to show up. And so this is
Mm.
something that's largely overlooked right now.
Yeah, interesting. One of the things that I'd love to get your input on is throughout the years, we've gone to a world where it would take a very long time for a candidate to apply for jobs, and that is still happening. But a lot of companies like Indeed and ZipRecruiter have tried to simplify it with kind of a Amazon style type of applying, basically a one click type of apply. Do you think that's actually hurt or helped companies? Because I'm getting different feedback.
So it's not great, right? And it's
Yeah.
not really great for the candidate because you don't get a whole lot of ownership over what happens with your profile beyond that. And the updates aren't great.
Yeah.
Same thing with LinkedIn. There are a couple of major ways that candidates can quick apply through most career sites now, right? It's going to be LinkedIn and Indeed. And there are a few companies out there like Match2 that are trying to be independent,
Hmm.
simple applies, and they give the candidate a better experience. And so I think that as we look towards what's going to happen with all this consolidation we're seeing in the market,
Yeah.
some of these things that are a good front end to any applicant tracking system might become more important.
Yeah, I think candidates are wanting a simpler application process, but also being on the employer side, a little bit of friction doesn't hurt, right?
That's right.
I think it has to be, there's a difference between friction that's just completely useless and friction that's actually digging deeper to make sure that candidate's a good fit as they go through the process. But staying on that theme of kind of the consumer, going to a consumer type of approach with talent acquisition, um, like for years, like working in consumer marketing, obviously the goal is to sell as many widgets as possible. In talent acquisition, it's not always the case. You're really trying to sell to the right candidate. What's your advice? And you talk about this in your book, Paint Your Store. How do you get your candidates to get really excited of working for your company?
Yeah. So you mentioned the frictionless process, right? And there is a formula actually for it, right? Some friction is important. If
Yeah.
it's too easy, it doesn't feel real. It feels
Yeah.
gamified, right?
Good
So there
point.
has to be some human touch in the process. There has to be a little bit of action that needs to be taken by the candidate in order to be invested in the process. And then you need to tell candidates to get excited. Here's how you learn more. Here's how you get ready for potentially interviewing with us. And here are some of the people in the organization that have talked about how great they feel about their job, and show them the videos and get your employees talking about how good work is there.
How real should companies be? Because if I go through 100 career sites right now, it all looks the same. Like, it all feels the same,
Mhm.
and honestly, like, there's, like, a side of BS there. Like, you kind of feel that, is that the reality of working there? And companies I work with, I advise them that, like, tell the real story. You might get less applicants, but you'll get more applicants that know exactly what it is to work there, so they're not surprised a month in, 2 months in. What's
Mhm.
your advice? Like, how real should employers be of what the actual work environment is within a company when we talk about it on the employer branding side?
You should be as real as possible,
Yeah,
and not, I guess, to your detriment, but in all ways, being honest about what the job's really like, and even down to the hiring manager interview level. If you're selling that job insincerely, those
yeah.
employees are not going to be happy when they start that job, right? So you have to be as honest as possible. This is going to be great for your Glassdoor reviews, for everything down the line, because candidates are going to say at least they were honest. And right then, tell the story about what is good, and from a variety of different types of employees, because the right candidates are going to see themselves in someone that you present, if you're not just doing the sort of scripted video from the usual suspects.
Yeah, good advice. So, Craig, we're almost in 2026. Can you believe it? It feels
Yeah.
like January was just like last month. And 2025 has been very busy. It's been very active in the world of talent acquisition. Going into 2026, like, I'm not going to ask you to take out your crystal ball, but what are you feeling? What is the year going to look like, both on for job seekers and talent acquisition teams?
Right. So for job seekers, in theory, around Q3, right, or hiring season before Q3, things are going to pick up. We're going to have
Yeah.
the economy will, it has to improve, and jobs have been on a, believe it or not, a steady decline for a while, right? And so that
Yeah.
doesn't always last forever. We've seen these trends before. So things will start to improve for job seekers. I think also employers are going to start to take a closer look, and I'm already seeing it in the market. I'm getting asked to do things to sort of help with process improvement, and really take a look at those micro interactions that can make a candidate experience better. Some big employers are really starting to look at this. So I think that we're going to elevate the role of talent acquisition and recruiting back to where we're really taking an interest in candidates and using the technology around us to help make that happen.
Love the energy, love the prediction. I do think you're right. I think 2026 is going to be a banner year for us. So, Craig, obviously author of Hiring Humans and Paint Your Store. Where can they get these books? Amazon, I'm assuming?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, you name it, they are out there. And I look, they're short reads, and they're super cheap if you buy them on Kindle. And there's a free version of Paint Your Store on Audible. So they're really good handbooks for talent attraction and standing out as your own personal brand, whether it's sales, marketing, job seeking, recruiting, you name it.
I agree. I read Hiring Humans last year, and I still have it next to me, obviously. So, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, ask you any questions, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Craig?
Absolutely. So I'm easy to find on social media. I'm at Fish Dogs on all the Meta channels and TikTok. and talentnetlive.com. Our next event is March 13th in Austin on the first day of South by Southwest. And that's my consulting website. And for the books and conferences, you can find it all there.
I'm glad you mentioned that conference. I've only heard fantastic things. So anyone that's going to booking, planning their conference season, they should definitely check it out. Craig, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you coming on the HR Morning Show.
Thanks, Serge. Appreciate you.
Hello, Angela. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you this morning?
I am doing great. It's so nice to meet you. Where on this fine planet are we speaking today?
Well, I actually live in Northern Virginia, but at this moment, I'm outside of Atlanta, Georgia today.
Got it. Got it. What's on tap for Thanksgiving?
Actually, right before I got on, I injected a bird. This was the second one I've done. So we're doing family time. I'm here in Atlanta for a couple of days, and
Love
then
it.
I'll go home and do Thanksgiving with my husband and son. I've mastered now, after 4 years of doing this, doing Thanksgiving dinner, the whole thing for the three of us. So
I
it'll be a
love
lot
that.
of eating and enjoying family time. What
Well,
about you?
love it, love it. So we go every year to my in-laws, which are about 15 minutes away from our house, so it's pretty easy. Get there early, stay there late, and just camp out and wear comfortable pants, and no one dresses up. Everyone just comes as themselves, and we have a good old time over there. So welcome to the HR Morning Show. Pleasure to have you on over here. For folks that may not know you, if you kindly introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do best.
Sure. So, my typical elevator pitch is that I am the poster child for all the things that you can do as a registered nurse that's non traditional. This year makes year 28. Goodness, that year keeps growing
So
that I've
stop
been a
counting. Stop counting.
yeah, I stopped counting. So it's 28 this year. And of that 28 years, 18 months I spent as a nurse at the bedside. So I've done a lot of different things. But most recently, for the last almost 20 years now, I've been in the talent acquisition space. So people say all the time, "Oh, you used to be a nurse." And I quickly correct them and say that, you know what, I still am, because I worked really hard for those two letters. And although I've lived
Didn't go anywhere.
yeah, I've lived and worked in different states. And while I don't take care of patients directly today, I used to say this. This was my tagline when I was leading talent acquisition teams: was I get to lead the people, to find the people, to take care of the people. So now I still kind of do that, but more so in the consulting space now.
Oh, and I love it. And let's throw some flowers over here. You're a president-elect of the National Association for Healthcare Recruitment. Did you have to campaign for that?
Actually, no, I didn't campaign per se. I've been a part of the organization since 2010. So I'm going to be my little shameless plug here. It is, there's lots of great organizations out there. I love that we are recruiters, healthcare recruiters, and an organization for recruiters by recruiters, so to speak. So I've been doing it long enough and kind of got my name out there and just been involved with the organization. So I'm more than thrilled to serve as president-elect. This year started my 2-year stint as president-elect.
Excellent. That's awesome. So I got to hit the rewind button for a second there. How and why did you transition from being a nurse, a practicing nurse, not a nurse practitioner, a nurse, into recruiting in the healthcare space? How did that happen?
I get that question all the time, and it's very interesting. Many people get into recruiting kind of stumbling into it, and that was my case as well. I was recruited to be a nurse recruiter by another fellow nurse who's actually in HR. She recruited me to the home health and hospice company I work for, and that is what I did. Just kind of go back: bedside nursing, cardiac nursing, and then various roles in home health and hospice for the next 9 years before I got into recruiting. And I was recruited to be the nurse recruiter. And it's very interesting. I know we're on an HR show, but I'll say this: that I was on maternity leave when she called me. So that's how I know how long I've been in recruiting. My son now is 19, going on 20.
Yeah, you have the exact data point.
Yes, yes. So it was recruited, and she said, "I know you know nothing about recruiting or HR, but I can teach you that. But you have the skills that I think will be helpful."
I love
And
it.
all this time, I still thank her to this day, because I really found my niche, and I do a different kind of nursing today.
That you're still in it, and you're still giving back to the industry. So let's talk about your book, 24 Minutes to Win the Day. First and foremost, what does that title mean?
What does the title mean? Interesting. It's
Well,
this has
I got
been
to
a
move over. I got to move over. So I'm in the frame over here. Okay, there we go.
um, I
Yeah.
Yeah, so 24 minutes. It actually, this is a very personal thing for me. I had gotten to a place, and I write about this in the introduction, by the way, that everybody goes through season. I went through a season both professionally and personally where it was time to make a crossroads. As I think I may have alluded to, about 6 months ago, I launched my own business. So I've moved into the world of
Congrats.
entrepreneurship. And so with that, I got very intentional about my time, my talent, and my treasure, what I do with those things. And so as I started thinking about time, and literally there's no more of it. We only get 24 hours in a day. And so I began breaking that down. And it was actually an idea that came to me on a walk. I like to walk, and I do now do 24-minute walks because I'm very intentional about that.
Hmm.
And that's where I got the idea of 24 minutes. And so I did a little research to find out kind of, is there some meat to this or any
Mhm.
background? Like, of course we know, and there's a lot of people a lot smarter than me that can tell you a lot of the neuroscience and all of that kind of stuff. But there is definitely enough out there about micro blocks of time and that type of thing. So
Absolutely. I do it.
24 minutes came from. And I know people had a friend tell me that, she does 15 minutes and that's fine. It's not a magical formula. Let me go ahead and be real clear about that. It's not like get this book. And while there's a lot of practical tools in there, those are things that can be helpful, but at the end of the day, there's no one has the secret sauce, but it is a way to think about your day and do it in increments of, when I think about 2024 is kind of like the first 24, because I'm very intentional about both the first 24 minutes of my day, starting it, as well as ending my day in the last 24
So
minutes.
what does that look like? What does that first 24 minutes of the day look like for you?
So for me, and I've always been this way, and I'll tell on myself, I'm pretty transparent. So I'm not a person that literally gets up as soon as the alarm goes off. So I'm getting
Mm.
better about it. Me and the snooze button have a very good relationship. So I get better. I've gotten better about it over time, but I'm very purposeful about starting my day with gratitude and reflection. So I do that. I also, and hence with writing, I like to write. I tend to communicate best by writing. And so I have journal on my phone. So I journal and I write and I think and reflect. And one of the things I think about too, and I get into this in the book, is, we don't have a problem with time in terms of we don't need more of it. It's more we need to be purposeful about what we're doing with that time. So one thing that I've been thinking about is what is the most important things that I need to do today?
Mm.
Not just, you think about all the things that you have going on, right? But I think about this day. So today is Tuesday, November 25th, and the day after the book came up. So I was very intentional about that too. So the book came out yesterday
Oh,
on November
congrats.
on
Oh, it
November
just came out.
24th.
Congrats on that. Yeah.
Literally, just so
Kudos.
the timing couldn't have been any more perfect, I guess. But yeah, so at 24, going back to your question about what I do, is I'm just very purposeful about that 24 minutes at the beginning and the 24 minutes at the end of the day. And then I do mention in the book too, and this is just me, so everybody can do whatever works for you. But I set aside 6 blocks of my time, 24-minute blocks of my time that I do for the things that are most important for me for that day.
So I mean, you walk through this meaningful reactive noise framework. What does that
Yes.
look like?
So one thing I'll tell you about in the book is 24. So everything is very intentional around 24. So there's 24 chapters, but I promise it's not a super long read because I don't like to read very long books myself. So I try not to write them. But there's one exercise that what you do is you set a clock timer for 24 minutes and then think about everything you did the previous day. What was meaningful, and that would be an M. What was reactive, a R, and then what was noise. And then for a lot of people, whether you're in HR or in any area, any profession, or even in your personal life, we find that we do a lot of reactive work, right? And a lot of things that are noise. But what are we doing that is actually meaningful? So this exercise is an audit. It's certainly not an issue. It's not about shaming anybody or anything like that, but just to reflect on what have I done what did I do yesterday, and what part of it was meaningful, what part of it was reactive, and what part was noise.
Interesting. And let's apply this to HR professionals. So how could they realistically apply this 24-minute method during their busy days? Because our days, if
Yeah.
you look at my calendar, if you look at it, like it is, and let me just backtrack for a second. I am a big fan of Dave Meltzer. I don't know if you know who Dave Meltzer is, but one of his big things that he talks about is being a student of your calendar. And once I started to embrace this concept of being a student of my calendar, I started to do multiple things. One, I don't use a Calendly link. I control when I want to talk to certain people. And this isn't being rude or disrespectful. I control when I want to talk to people because it's in certain times of my day. And then if I start using a calendar link, it's too much openness, right? And I have to start blocking it more versus I tell folks when I'm available because I know when it goes into my flow state. I know for the next hour, I'm going to be doing candidate interviews. I know for the next hour, I'm blocking off to do sourcing and screening because I'm an in the trenches recruiter here. The other piece that I
Right.
also do is I block out the first hour, 9 to 10 a.m. every single day to do my busy work, to swallow the frog, as they say, right? To take on the
Right.
biggest thing I need to do for the day. And that sets me up for success for the day. So how can HR leaders apply this in their practice?
Yeah, so there's one of the things that I talk about is like blocks of time, and that's the framework that this is built on. So one thing similar to what you do from 9 to 10, because I used to do that as well. You have your power time is what I would call it. So what I would do is actually stack that as either 24 minutes of very intentional power time, like your number one priority. Also, I do talk in the book about stacking blocks. So for some people, maybe it's 2 blocks of 24 minutes. That is
Right.
your power block, right? And then this is one thing that's it's so important for me is that reset block. And that is the time in your day. And I do 24 minutes. I talked a little bit about my 24-minute walks. And that's important for you to take time instead of, you said that you're being a student of your calendar, which I appreciate that. One thing I like to be is the owner of mine. And I think you still have the same point of
Oh,
control,
I own my calendar. That's why I don't have a calendar link.
right. I own it. And so one of the things that I actually block it on my calendar is for my reset time. And that's the 24 minutes that's uninterrupted. It's my walking time. Well, because I do like to do that. And then before the end of the day, like I said, my reflection, that type of thing. The other thing I think is helpful, particularly if you are leading teams in HR or talent acquisition, is actually having a team block. Something to think about. Of course, you don't have to. It's not. This is just suggestions, not something that you have to do, but very purposeful time for the team. I know that going back to everybody remembers 2020, right? I still remember March of 2020, sending everybody home, and we're gonna be home for 2 weeks, and then we come back,
Feels like a
and
lifetime ago
I
at this
know it
point.
was
Oh,
5 years ago. But
jeez.
then, not everybody then was in the world of doing remote work. And so one thing that my organization did was put in requirements that remote teams do the daily stand-ups. So, of course, that was done out of a directive, but this is just a thought process too of having 24 minutes of purposeful time for your team. And so those are 3 things. Definitely, I'm a big thing on the reset block. That's just important. I think a lot of people are doing the prioritizing things and maybe even doing team time, but you really have to take care of yourself. And here I am, sometimes the pot calling the kettle black, especially in nursing. We tend to want to, we're always the caregivers taking care of other people, but not taking care of yourselves.
Always.
And given the fact that I just flew and thankfully flew with no issues a
There you
couple
go.
days ago, but the saying, secure your mask before anybody else's. So you definitely, it's important to take care of yourself.
I love it. So who is this book for? Who should be reading it? Who should be picking it up?
Yeah, so it's for anyone that wants to be more productive with their time. So it doesn't necessarily, I know we're on an HR show and that's my background with HR and recruiting. So definitely there's stories in the book. There's some personal stories as well as some things that are applicable for different areas and different industries. So I will say I'm a little partial to HR and recruiting. So there's a lot of examples there, but really anyone, it's really for anyone that would like to be more
Awesome.
purposeful in their day. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Angela Pointer, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Where could folks find you? Where could they connect? Where could they get the book? Give us all the good stuff.
Yes, well, the book is on Amazon. Like I said, as of yesterday, it's live. So you can certainly go there. You can visit me on my website, angelapointer.com. Do have the link to the book there. I'm on LinkedIn. So you can be one of my, I think I'm at 22,000 followers. So feel free to join me there. So that's where you can
Well,
find me.
well, I'm going to connect with you right now. Angela Pointer, thank you so much for joining us. You have a wonderful Thanksgiving, safe
You do the
travels, and
same.
please don't be a stranger. Come back next year on the HR Morning Show. We'd love to have you and dig in even more. Happy
Thank
holidays.
you.
Take care.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
having me. Happy
Likewise.
Thanksgiving to you. Bye bye.
All right, welcome to Talk Nerdy with iCIMS. I am Trent Cotton, head of talent insights at iCIMS. And this segment, we like to get into some of the deep and hot topics, but through a data lens. And I know a lot of really smart people in the market, way smarter than me, and I try to bring them on, and today is no exception. Joining me today is Matt with the Hackett Group. So Matt, welcome to the segment.
Hi, Trent, and thanks for having me. And I'm not so sure I would go forward and say that I'm that much smarter than you.
Well,
You and I have talked a lot, so
we do talk a lot, and every time I walk away, it's like, oh wow, you put those little ninjas in my brain that I think about like during the course of the day, and I enjoy surrounding myself with people like that. So I know the last time we were talking, and you actually did some coaching and data for our product team, and I wanted to bring that onto the segment because I think you have some really unique insights around AI. And so before everybody just kind of goes, oh my God, they're talking about AI, we're talking about data, not the hype, not all the sizzle. We're actually going to be talking about some steak today. And so I want to kick it off with just let's just kind of dig into it. You've done some research, you've done a lot of advising. What are the types of AI solutions that are really resonating with some of the HR personas today?
yeah. So it's interesting. It's moving away from this whole premise of go to market with use case. So part of my role, as a research director with Hackett, is really digging into not just what the buy side is interested in, but also how the solution providers themselves are going to market, and how are they differentiating in the market. And use cases is part of it. And I know, and it's kind of evolving beyond use cases, and I think we'll get to that in a little bit. But I think where we're seeing most traction is still in the talent management space primarily.
Why do you
And
think that
for some,
is?
say it again.
Why do you think it's all on the talent management side?
I think because a lot of that was low hanging fruit from a
Mm,
capability perspective. I
okay.
think there were some areas where, from a content generation perspective, knowledge management, kind of navigating advanced navigation, really thinking about taking some of the day to day workloads off of the HR admins, allowing them to be more strategic. And that was now evolving towards the more like, actually enabling strategic itself as a companion. I think also where
Right.
you're starting to see a little bit of maybe symbolism of acceptance of AI into more complicated areas. An example I come to is in the payroll space. Originally, when AI first went on the scene, a lot of payroll administrators were saying, "No way, you're not touching my payroll. This is something that's too touchy of a subject
Right.
for
Right.
organizations." But now, even just in the past 6 months, we're starting to see more use cases pop up from a compliance perspective, from anomaly detection, and the acceptance of that from the buy side, I think, speaks to the broader trend of acceptance of AI within HR, understanding that it can, to an extent, be trusted as long as you still have human in the loop.
Well, and you actually shared a pretty unique slide that I'd love to share with the audience. So if we can bring that up. Um, this is, I'm going to let you kind of set the stage, and then I'm going to ask you to pick out maybe your top two or three.
Sure. So, a question that we're always asked by providers of AI solutions is, how do we differentiate ourselves in the market? And as I was
Mhm.
saying a moment ago, I think use cases are becoming so ubiquitous at this point that simply saying this is what the AI does is no longer enough of a selling point for a buyer of an HR AI solution. So saying that you screen candidates, that's great, and it's an important feature, but you also have several other vendors out in the space that say they do the same thing. In the
Mm.
learning space, you say, we create content, we automate the creation of content and assessments. Again, that's great. You've got about 10 others that say the same thing. So how are you differentiating yourself in terms of the actual delivery of that solution? And there's some kind of higher level factors that go beyond the use case that I call out on this slide here. But a couple of things that I would call out specifically when we speak to buy side and we're helping them decide, which solution to go with and the questions that are top of mind for them. More often than not, number one is data privacy. They're concerned about how that AI is using their data. Is it in a closed system? Is it something that's used? How is it learning from the company information? And tied to that is risk. Where is my data going? What is my liability? Again, from that compliance perspective too, thinking about PII, personally identifiable information. What is the risk of me engaging with this platform? How is that going to be used? And then finally, I would say of the top three, the last one would be that demonstrable ROI. So beyond the use case, the marketing pitch, saying we're going to source candidates faster for you, we're going to create content, we're going to reduce your workload. How are you actually moving that needle after this solution has been implemented? And it's still very early in the stages of AI adoption for you to have hard numbers of saying, sure, we've used this AI agent for a year. Most people have not been using an AI agent for a year. But as we're going into 2026, I think this is going to keep growing as a focus point, not just from a marketing perspective for technology providers, but as a critical consideration for HR leaders that not only you need to convince them, but you need to enable them to convince the rest of the C-suite, because adoption of AI is a joint decision. It's not going to be just the CHRO leader. It's going to be the CEO, the CIO, COO personas that want a say in this, and they want to understand exactly what they're buying and exactly how it's going to help their business.
Yeah, I think that's some really valuable advice. And I think that's one of the things that we have seen a shift in the market is that a lot of the buying is actually being pushed from other members of the C-suite onto HR. HR is still kind of driving and doing the discovery, but we're finding that it's coming from external sources within the C-suite. And we've kind of clocked that over the last 18 months to 2 years, which makes a lot of sense. Now, I do want two things. I love how that you called out risk and privacy. I think I have said it until I'm blue in the face. Start with the guardrails first. And if anyone is looking for, how do I even get started? I just want to do a quick little plug. If you go to the iSIMS YouTube channel, go to our Fireside Chats, look up Responsible AI. Our Chief Product Officer walks through our framework, which is something that can be transcendental into your organization. So go check that out. I do want to double click in the last couple of minutes that we have together. Give me some examples of demonstrable ROI whenever it comes to leveraging AI in HR, because I think people need some examples since it's so new.
Yeah, and I think it's a division between what is the ROI for the actual HR organizations, but then also the workforce as a whole. So when we say workload reduction, yes, we're thinking about workload reduction for the HR admins in the sense of they're getting less queries from employees because they're able to use a conversational chatbot assistant that makes smart recommendations. But then also for the employee base themselves in terms of self-navigation across core HR policies, across learning and development solutions, if they're interested from an internal mobility perspective, awareness of what is available to them, but then also guiding them through those processes in such a way where they're not fishing around on the site. I'm not sure how to apply if I'm an internal employee. There's a lot of the question marks that get taken away by these guided approaches. And then also the recommendations that lead, let's stick with the internal mobility example, lead employees to say, hey, I applied for this, but here's these other two that are highly adjacent. Tie that into my learning. How can I apply my learning, or how can I engage on my learning platform to be better prepared from a career pathing perspective? So it's a lot of employee experience does come into play there, and that is hard to quantify, but you can quantify that through retention, through satisfaction, through performance review, actually how organizations are progressing. And it is not, as I mentioned, going to be a quick hit within a month. You're going to have these fantastic metrics. It really does need some time to ingest into the organization overall. But then other areas where we look at too are obviously the cost reduction angle. How much work are you able to do with X number of employees? And how can you evolve your organization to become more productive using the same level of workforce, which then results in that cost reduction. And that's something where you see, a COO persona really start to take interest in how AI solutions can move the needle for them from a performance metric perspective.
Yeah, and this is, we started seeing this a little bit, and during the pandemic, where HR had to get out of, I call it the HREs language, and really start to leverage and use some of the business words. I think AI is going to push it even further to the right, where HR is really just dealing with the commodity of people. That it is directly tied to every KPI within the organization. So being able to establish that ROI, I think, would be highly important for anyone to be able to justify the ROI and the spend. So thank you for that. I am quite sure that if you and I were delivering this live, that one slide, that's where we would see people kind of, up there taking pictures. So where can people connect with you if they wanted to find out more?
Sure. Thanks, Trent. It's been great speaking with you. So I'm easily found on LinkedIn under Matthew Merker. And the link there is on the screen. And then also for more information about the Hackett Group, please go to the Hackett Group Market Intelligence site. We cover HR, finance, and procurement. And to your point, Trent, it really is a broad domain crossing ecosystem. HR seeps into everything now, similar to the way procurement and finance have gone along that journey too. And I think that it's really important to get that holistic view.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And I hope you and yours have a fantastic holiday.
Thanks, Trent. You too.
All right, team, I'll kick it back to you.
Good morning, beautiful people. Today on the HR Weather, we've got a major pressure system building across the workplace. We're tracking what experts are calling a productivity anxiety. You can feel it across industries. Companies are tightening up, expectations are rising, and leaders are quietly asking their teams to do more, well, with a whole lot less. So CEOs are pulling out their favorite umbrella, performance pressure. You're seeing it everywhere. More performance reviews, more stack ranking conversations, more, hey, can we revisit that KPI? And on the other side, employees are reporting higher stress, burnout indicators are taking back up, and hybrid teams are feeling the chill the most. Now, HR team, this is our moment. That means getting really proactive, real conversations about workload, clearer priorities, better communication around performance expectations, and reminding leaders that productivity isn't just a number, it's actually a human output. So there's good news here. Like any front, this one can pass without any major damage if companies really stay grounded and avoid knee-jerk reactions. They have to cut with intentions, measure with clarity, and most importantly, they have to keep investing in the work that actually drives real value. So bundle up. Here in Canada, it's really getting really cold. We got some snow. There is more cold air moving through. But with the right leadership and a steady hand from us in HR, we can avoid turning this productivity pressure system into a full-blown burnout. That's your HR Weather. Let's get back to Adam.
Yeah, I mean, you choose to live up there. I mean, that's by
do
choice.
Do I choose? I grew up here. It's the country of birth. It's not like I can move. I guess I could move, but I quite enjoy Canada, Adam.
Well, I love it. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors again. Thank you, Kika. Thank you so much, everyone. Please check out Kika. And you, Marissa, you are rocking the quarter zips. So if anybody's out there following the social media trends, apparently quarter zips are making a comeback. My 13-year-old came up to me yesterday and she goes, Dad, do you have any quarter zips? I mean, I've been rocking quarter zips for years. They're just collecting dust in my closet. She's like, you should rock a quarter zip. I'm like, so I have the same one that you have. I'm going to start rocking that one out there. Folks, everyone out there, we want to thank you all for spending your mornings with us on the HR Morning Show with Serge and I and Trent and Alin and all of our special guests today. We hit 2,000 followers. Let's keep that number going. We're going to go for 10,000 maybe let's go for 20,000 by the end of 20,000 by the end of 2026. If you want to check out more, visit us on LinkedIn, check us out there. We are a podcast. We are streaming. We are on purpleacornnetwork.com. Please check that one out. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all. On behalf of myself and everyone on the HR Morning Show, everyone over in the production truck, Alan and Evan behind the scenes there, we want to thank everyone for joining us, spending your Tuesday mornings with us. Have a wonderful, happy, healthy Thanksgiving, and we will catch you next week, Tuesday morning, bright and early, 10 a.m. on the East Coast. Whatever time you are in your time zone, figure it out because I can't do the math. But thank you all. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a great Tuesday. Take care, everybody.